Now, back to Access Tech Live, the latest in tech and accessibility with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Hey everyone, we are back on Access Tech Live. Mark and I talking in the break there. I've got to pick up on what you were just talking about with me there in the break about drones. It's not something I would ever go out and buy, Mark, but you love drones. You love making and taking footage with drones, don't you? And it's a great tool.
It's a little bit of a hobby. But you know what's funny?
Expensive hobby.
It's expensive. Okay, so the story is DJI, which is one of the big drone manufacturers, just released a new drone called the Avata 2. And the Avata is a first-person point of view drone. So when you're flying with it, number one, you're wearing goggles, so almost like VR. So you see what the drone sees, which is pretty cool. But it really gives you that immersive kind of feel like you're flying through the air, which is cool. And okay, you might be saying to yourself, great, where's the accessibility in this? Funny enough, believe it or not, a lot of people with a little bit of vision have tried these on and really enjoy the feeling because it's something that you wouldn't be able to experience before. And because they have those VR style goggles, they're right against your eyes and they're super bright LED screens. So it is an interesting experience. But I go all winter, Stephen, and these drones aren't really made for Canada, right? So I go all winter going, okay, I'll update my drone, I'll turn it off on every once in a while to make sure it gets the updates, and then the weather will turn, and I'll be like, okay, now's the time to get out there. And I think they know that at DJI, so this is when they, of course, release a new drone this morning. It happened at 9 a.m., and I was like at 9:01, I'm on Amazon going, bye, it'll be here tomorrow. So yes, I'm very much looking forward to the DJI Avata. I will have it on the show next week. I'll show it to you, maybe even with some footage, so cool. Even so you can try to experience it for yourself if you can. Okay.
Yeah, do you know, I love it, and you're absolutely right about people with low vision. Some people with low vision need to use or can really value using this kind of technology because it allows them to see things they would never be able to have seen even with a smartphone camera. It allows you to, as you say, it's immersive. That's the whole point. So cool. Anyway, look, I know we really must talk about some other things. Microsoft, of course, you mentioned in the last segment. Okay, I have a question for you on this. Do you think that these claims are actually true? Do you think that these new Snapdragon Elite processors, whatever they're called, are going to be up there with the M3 and in particular the MacBook Air we've seen?
It's hard to argue it right now because I haven't had time to go hands-on with these new processors yet. No one really has, but early benchmarks really do show it outperforming the M3 MacBook Air. Now, you have to look at the wording sometimes of these things, right? Because the M3 MacBook Air is the base level M3 chip from Apple, right? And M3 is now a year old. So, sure, in May, before WWDC, they might outperform the M3 MacBook Air, which at its core is a good thing, right? Honestly, because these Surface devices, the Surface, Pro and the laptops really could use a little bit more of oomph and battery life and more power. So if they at least are equivalent with the MacBook Air, then they're a great device for consumers to go out and buy, hands down, right? But you have to know that Apple's going to be talking about M4 and M3 Pros and M3 Ultra in a month after that, literally like a month later, if not a couple weeks later at WWDC, they're going to be talking to developers all about, how you're going to, program things for M4 with the neural engine and who knows what other AI enhancements are going to come to the table. So it's a great conversation starter now. And I think Microsoft knows that if they start putting out these claims and leak some information now, they're getting ahead of the game. But that on June 10th or whatever, June 10th, that story is now completely in the dust, right? Because Apple's going to have something on their table. And I'm not saying it just because they're Apple, Stephen, right? Someone else, Samsung, will have something else a month later that'll put the Apple devices behind the game. It is competition at its best. Okay, so when we talk about monopolies and stuff like that, you got to look at this. It is so much fun as a consumer. Maybe not so fun if you just bought a computer and you're waiting. But it's so much fun as a consumer to win because it's like you're always getting something better from another company. And in this field and for this kind of show that we do, it's so much fun because we get to just let them have their claims. Okay, now we'll put it to the test and really test it out.
It's so important, though, for consumers to understand that even if you bought a 2020 MacBook Air with the M1 processor, which Apple no longer sell, they've discontinued, but you can pick them up on Amazon, you can pick them at Best Buy. I think was it Costco were doing it at a very considered rate, I think like $699 at one point, which is an amazing price. You can pick that up, you can use that machine today, and that will last you 5 years. That is a great machine.
Easily,
It'll last
Stephen.
you a long time. Yeah, you don't have to go and buy the latest and greatest. Unfortunately, though, I don't know when it comes to Intel processors on the PC if you could say the same. Could you go out and buy a machine that's 4 years old today that's a PC and get the best
I think
out
so.
of it?
No, I
You
think so, and I say that
Okay.
I say that from someone who has a Surface Pro 8, so we're now 2 generations behind, and it doesn't have a super powerful processor. It's a Core i5, and it's perfectly fine. Like it performs, it does everything I need to do on a daily basis perfectly fine. You have to
Yeah.
remember that use case is so important here. We've come to the point now where yes, Apple announced their chips, and they were so ahead of everybody else. Now everybody's catching up. We're leveling the playing field, and now it's just going to be incremental pushes on hardware and little features here and there. But software is what needs to kind of almost jump ahead,
Yes.
because right
Yeah.
now, all the software that's out there, everything that exists will run fine on all these computers. They won't have a
Yeah.
problem. But as the processors increase and get better, people are going to push software to different limits, and that'll make it more exciting on the software side of things. But as an everyday user using email, writing documents, spreadsheets, that kind of stuff, you're fine with anything that's 2 years old now. It's not like back in the day where you'd be outdated a year after it came out.
It's interesting though, because when it comes to AI, what that requires in order to work on device, it needs quite a powerful processor, a particular type of processor, a neural engine inside the machine. And this is something which more and more PCs are going to have over this year, already have. Macs have already had them for a while. They even have them in their phones already. Other devices are catching up. So there is a lot of catch up going on, but that's a really important part of the AI story, isn't it? For it to work and function on the device, meaning that you're not always needing to be connected to the internet in order to use all these wonderful functions.
Yeah, and I like to try to break that down almost in like, child speak, right? Because people don't care about the bits and the bytes. You and I, pay attention to it, but really it's just, you got a processor, and the processor is just divided into different sections, and the sections are dedicated to different tasks. And nowadays, especially since Apple started with their chips, there's a little section that's dedicated to AI. The more powerful that section is, the faster it can do things on your device. And really that translates to when you ask it a question, like you say, hey, whatever, and ask me a question, how fast will that respond? And you know what? If I think to Google's, circle to search feature that we've talked about over the past couple months, where you press and hold the home button, you just circle anything and it instantly responds. That's a perfect example. It's quick. It's fast. You don't have to worry about going to the internet, coming back, connecting on cell phone networks. It's just there. And everybody's going to be doing it. So now it's a matter of, okay, who does it best?
Yeah, and that's a big question. We'll find out. That horse race is going to go on for a while. Now, an interesting area of AI we don't hear enough about, I don't think, because there's actually very few companies in this category at the moment, and that is AI devices. Now, you could argue an Amazon Echo is an AI device of sorts, but what we're talking about here is that new, improved, supercharged AI. And there are companies like Humane and Rabbit. We're going to talk more about Rabbit as a device for improving the potential for web accessibility with Robin Christopherson a bit later. But Humane, more recently bringing out their product. They announced it last year. It's now out.
It's available. It's shipping. Yeah, people are posting videos to YouTube, their reviews. As of this morning, people are saying it's a sexy device, but it's utterly useless. They're saying that it just doesn't work half the time. And let's describe this device for a second, okay? It looks like almost a Star Trek communicator. It's a small square. It's about the quarter the size of a smartphone. It magnetically sticks, thanks to the battery that's magnetic on the back. It sticks onto clothing. And the goal of it is to be somewhat hands-free. You just kind of tap it, and it just asks it a question, and it's supposed to respond. Everybody who's been testing it so far has been saying that the delay, again, you talk about on device versus off device, it has a cell phone chip in it, right? So it has to go to the cloud. The delay is long. It's not really accurate. It's got a camera and a laser projector on it, so you can hold your hand in front of it, and it'll project information onto your hand, and you can use motions to actually control it. They're saying that's not very responsive, and in outdoor bright environments, it's not working very well. Is this hardware? Is this software? No one really knows. This is a whole new category of devices. But I got to ask you this question because, I can imagine the accessibility benefits of a device like this. And the reason I can imagine is because I know you wear those Meta smart frames that have cameras on them. And I know that services like Be My Eyes, Ira, et cetera, could greatly benefit from devices like this if they were there and they were on and spiffy. But if it's not a wearable, if it's not a watch, it's not a pair of glasses, do you have room to carry more devices on us to work on one dedicated thing that really our smartphones can do pretty well?
Well, it's like anything else, right? If it works for you and if it does the job, I will wear it. I don't care what it is, but it has to work for me. And there are some definite concerns. There are definite concerns in the disability community today about the Humane AI Pin and what it is and how it functions. So, for example, when you're signing up for the device, when you actually buy it and you get it, the first thing you want to do is set up a passcode so you can activate it. That can only be done visually by that laser shining that screen onto your hand and you being able to enter that pin. Now, of course, that raises all kinds of questions about how people would do that with physical mobilities, how someone who would do that who is blind. There's no audio version of that. Also, you can only communicate with this at the moment. It would appear by touch and by voice. There's no other method of input. So there are some serious challenges here for Humane and questions they really need to answer on the accessibility. Now, this is something I've reached out to them about and I'm waiting to hear back. They tell us accessibility is part of their journey, which is great to hear, but we'd like to see it in the product, not part of a journey. So this is something we really need to learn more about. I mean, I'll cut them a little bit of slack because it is a brand new product and it is a brand new category. But the people behind this are ex-Apple people. So you would have thought that accessibility would be part of their mindset, but it just goes to show that doesn't always show to be true. So
I don't think cutting them slack is even necessarily a good thing, honestly, Stephen, because as you said, ex-Apple people, it's 2024. I mean, you're designing a new product. If you're not thinking about accessibility from the start, then we're just back 20 years where people are trying to put band-aids on this after the fact. It should have been there from day one. It should have been any new product that comes out, a new category like this. Like I look at this almost like the iPod Shuffle, right? It was a small little thing you throw on your lapel, or any dedicated device that was dedicated to something, and let's say music playing. That's gone. Those are all gone because all that technology is now in our smartphones. So if they want to define a category and think that they really have something there, they need to come out in full force, because it's going to be forgotten. You're not going to be able to catch up from that in a year from now, saying, "Oh, look, we fixed all these things." We're going to be far gone beyond that, or we're going to have those features in our phone. We're going to have those features in our watch. I remember when the Apple Watch came out with cellular on it, I was like, "Oh, great! I'll be able to go out and not take my phone and make calls." Yeah, guess what? How many people do that now? Not many.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the days when the iPhone wasn't accessible, and I remember the days when the Google phones weren't accessible, and Apple got their stuff together and figured it out, and Google followed suit, but it took them longer, and that gave Apple the opportunity to get in front, not just in terms of accessibility, but in terms of loyalty from the consumers.
That was a different time.
That makes
that was a different time. Don't forget, that was a different time.
It was a different time, but we're still.
It wasn't 2024 where everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, but disabled people didn't just appear 20 years ago. We've been around forever.
Exactly.
And that's the point. So, the difference perhaps today is there's more of us, and doing shows like this, I think, help, because these conversations were not happening 20 years ago. That's the difference. So it's about time for people to stand up and realize that we're a community. We have money too. We're willing to spend that money, but you've got to make the product accessible.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that with Robin Christofferson from AbilityNet in a couple segments. But when we come back, it's Autism Awareness Month. So how does technology support people with ASD? Well, we'll find out with our guest, Jesse Duran, after a short break here on Access Tech Live.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back.